Hello, this is Neil Mitchell. Welcome to the first edition of a new project. Each week, an in-depth interview and an intergenerational debate with my son, Cam.
It's just fashion.
It's not, it's ugly.
But it's like, why do all boomer men seem to wear their pants up to their nipples?
Well, they do.
Yeah.
It's awful. This week's interview, marathon champion, Steve Moneghetti. He's an Australian sports legend, a marathon runner of extraordinary ability and success. Gold, silver, bronze, Commonwealth Games. Went to 4 Olympics and finished in the top 10 3 times. Mr. Mona, running is having a resurgence. You on to these clubs, these running clubs, cafe clubs?
Well, it's interesting because when I ran with a group, and I would always have a group of runners and still run with a couple of people now, but we would run and we'd have some unbelievable conversations on those runs, solve world peace, all that sort of stuff. But then when we finished, we would just go our separate ways, and I'd go home and Tanya would go, "What did you chat about?" And I'd go, "Oh God, actually that's a really good question. I'm not sure what we chatted about." And they'd go, "Oh, did you talk about Berkey's, partners?" "Oh no, we didn't talk about that." "Oh, did you, how's the family?" Oh no, we didn't. I didn't talk about the family. So we didn't really absolutely sort of, embrace friendships outside of running. So whereas these social running groups now, apparently, people are
2,000,
married,
I think,
hooking
2,000.
up, doing all this stuff, yeah. And it's great, obviously
Good
terrific, because when I first started running, there was this sort of misnomer about the loneliness of the long distance runner. And now we're seeing such an interest in recreational running. It's become normalised. I talk to people now and they used to think I was crazy. Now, we sort of have this kind of sort of bond that, "Oh yeah, I ran a marathon last week and it was great. I remember you saying this." And so we share stories rather than me talking down to them, which is nice because I feel like not only don't have to educate people about what I went through, but also the great benefits I've got out of running, the experiences, the relationships, the mental health benefits, the wellness, all of that stuff, they're now getting to experience. So I don't have to lecture them about, "Come on Neil, get out for a run, it'll be the best thing you ever did," because they come back to me and they go, "Mate, it is the best thing I've ever done and I don't know why I didn't do it earlier."
Has it been that good for your body? I remember talking to the Campbell sisters, the swimmers, and they said elite sport is really bad for your body because you push yourself to the edge all the time. Now, what are you carrying? What are the injuries?
Yeah, well, I've got a few. I've got a chronic sort of calf, so old man's calf. I don't think I'm old. I am a man, and my calf's playing up. So I'm in between. I talk. People say, "Do you still run?" Well, I run every day I can, but I'm injured more than I run. But so I've got that, and then a little bit of arthritis in one knee. So I'm carrying.
That's all right.
a
I
couple
mean,
of
so
pretty
AFL
good.
footballers who can't walk by the time they're 40.
Yeah, and I don't. My issue is I still want to run fast. So they will. So when I get back running, I'm likely to tear another calf because obviously I push hard. If I'm not, I know it sounds weird, if I'm not actually tearing a calf, I'm probably not going hard enough because my aerobic capacity, so my breathing, is still really good. So my resting heart rate's 31, 32 overnight.
You need a pacemaker.
Yeah, that's right. Tanya has to just give me a shove to make sure it's still working. But so that's really good. And mentally, I'm still really tough because I was always able to push myself pretty hard. So those 2 factors are bad because then physically, my body's not coping with it. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but the third one's letting me down.
You mentioned talking with your mates, running. Mm-hmm. When you train by yourself, did you talk to yourself?
I didn't talk to myself out loud, but I processed things. So I talked to myself internally.
Well, what were you talking about?
About what I was going to talk about today with you, what things I had coming up, when I was I've always, whilst I was a professional runner through the 90s, when I was running, I always had other interests, Tanya Sovereign Hill, working for the education department, teaching, engineering, all that. So I had all these other aspects of my life that I would ponder when I was running. Sometimes you would think of nothing, I would just be enjoying the environment, but sometimes you're also processing things that were happening in your life. Great way, I tell people say they go for a run and I say, "Oh, how far do you go?" And they go, "Oh, I do park run, 5K, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I go for an hour, because I reckon you need the first 20 minutes to ease your way out of the busyness of life. Then in the 20 minutes in the middle, you are in this floating space where you have clarity of thought like you don't have in any other situation. It's the endorphins have kicked in, so you have this real clarity of thought. Then you need the last 20 minutes to re-enter society. So it takes you an hour probably to appreciate all aspects of it.
I got a slightly different version of that. I was writing a book and I'd run 3 or 4 Ks, jog, slow, crook knees, just move.
Yep.
But I'd be ahead of a walk, and for the first K or so I'd just be getting my head together, and then it's what you're saying, and then for the next couple of Ks I'd be writing the book.
Yep.
And for the last K I just wanted to survive. So, I wrote a lot of that book when I was running.
Yeah. Interestingly though, when I know, and this shows how you are in sort of this quite transcendental state, because I would write the best speeches and the best chapters of a book ever in that 20 minutes. But then interestingly, when I finished and I'd had a shower and I sat down and I wrote it down, it wasn't as impactful. So I reckon I can, and today's a good example, I can say stuff, it may not resonate with you. And that's highly likely because I'm not a very intelligent person. But then on another day, you might absolutely get it. And I've done a few speaking gigs just recently. I don't do a lot now, but in a couple of circumstances, first one was okay, and the second one I knew the audience were getting it, and there was this bond, connection. And once you get that connection, it is a very powerful thing. So I talk about a couple of things in life being important, and communication's one of them, and listening and having conversation. But if there's no connection, it's wasted anyway. So you've got to build that connection, I reckon.
A life of fitness, and I know committed to fitness and kids' fitness and bringing up. What do you think of the Ozempic revolution?
Oh, yeah, I never look at shortcuts. There are no shortcuts in life, and I feel like so many people came to run with me, and they'd come, they'd drive from all around the world, fly from all around the world, drive from different states of Australia, and they'd come to Ballarat because, it was the centre of the universe when I was going well, and they would come to Ballarat. And I actually think they thought when they crossed the sign that said you are now entering Ballarat, they were a better runner. And then I think they turned up and they thought I was going to give them some pill or something and go, okay, you're a really good runner now. And we'd go for a run and I'd say, there's no shortcuts. It took me 10 years. You're going to be doing this for a very long time. You may actually never, ever be that good, but you'll learn a lot about yourself along the way. Anyway, I'm sure they get in the car and go home and go, I didn't find any secret. He didn't give me a pill, and he told me it's going to take 10 years and still might not happen. Don't know why I bothered. So in the end, they don't understand. It's not about the outcome and the successes you have. It's what you do on the journey. So it's all the stuff we've already spoken about. Learning about yourself, having this clarity of thought, all these things that you have that you're experiencing during a run, or during a race, even more so in a race, because you learn a lot about yourself in a race. That's what the benefit is. So it's not the winning a race or running a world best time. It's just the having a result because of the work you've put in that you can be satisfied with.
What's the most surprising thing you learned about yourself in a race? And was it Barcelona 92?
Well, I learned a lot. about. The thing I learned in Barcelona, it's probably the only genuinely bad marathon I
should mention, you started as favourite?
Oh, it would have been a medalist.
A medalist,
going to win.
Finished
and I was
48.
I was in shape to win a medal, so I would, and that's not overstating it. So, and halfway through the race, I'd already ran out of glycogen, and it was going to end badly. And I finished, records would show I finished in 48th place. But interestingly, what it showed me that day, and Tanya was there, my coach Chris Wardle was there, and they were saying, don't do any damage yourself, pull out. I was never pulling out. And what it made me realise, the reason I wasn't ever going to pull out was the Olympic Games for a start, and you don't pull out at the Olympics. I was running for Australia. In all of these reasons, I was in really good shape. So for me, it wasn't about actually the result in the end. It was just making sure that I did what I started, finished what I started. And for me, it was a success just getting to the finish line. So I was never going to pull out. So I didn't have to really think about the challenge is, oh, I should stop now. I was never going to stop.
Never gonna
All
stop.
I had to do was just deal with the physical pain of having no glycogen and just battling, and it was uphill to
And
the
why
finish.
did that happen? Why did you run?
So, in a nutshell, I living in Ballarat, cold weather, wanted to, knew Barcelona was going to be hot, so hired a house at a place called Sant Cugat, just over the hill from Barcelona. Stayed there for 3 weeks before the games. No air conditioning, chose to have no air conditioning, and I was waking up in the middle of the night in a lather of sweat, and I'm going, this is fantastic, I'm acclimatising, go for a run, don't drink any water, get really used to this, get screaming heat. What it actually was doing was absolutely just depleting me, so I was getting so dehydrated, and there is a photo in my book that Pete Howley took of me looking like and I don't glorify war, but looked like I was come out of a concentration camp. I was that skinny and frail. And basically what had happened, what you normally do is you adjust to that heat if you do it properly. I dehydrated, and then what you do is you don't have glycogen, you don't take any carbohydrates. That depletes your glycogen system, and then the second half of the week you eat only carbohydrates and you get this really high level of glycogen. But my body was in such a decrepit state that it closed down, and I started that race just with my body basically in denial. So I should have just got on the plane and flew home, but I didn't know that until halfway through.
What was your time in the end?
2:23 something, forget the seconds.
A lot of people would love.
Yeah, still okay.
A lot of people would love that.
Yeah, and again, it's interesting. You talk about that time because I ran 2:08, which when I won the Berlin Marathon in 1990, that was the fastest time in the world. Then, and the 16th fastest time in history. Now, they obviously ran under 2 hours, but the difference, so 2:23 is an absolute disaster, finishing 48th, 2:08, 15 minutes.
That's a world record, yeah.
Yeah, so 15 minutes in people's lives, it's a morning tea break, but for me, it's a difference between being one of the best in the world and just an also-ran.
Well, get back to the question. What did you learn about yourself? That race, what was the most important thing you learnt about yourself running? Racing?
That ability, physical ability, sort of only gets you so far, and it's having the belief in your training and the people around you and your I don't want to use the word loosely, but your resilience to make it happen when it's easier to not do it. So I'm a pretty normal person, but I'm pretty unique in that, if you said we're going to hit our head against that wall until one of us stops, there's no way I'm not going to stop until you do, because I've just got that stubbornness to keep going. So I learned a lot about, and the marathon's good for that because it's absolutely about persistence, and you're going to have some ups and downs along the way, and at the end of the day you're going to hang in there and get it done.
Can I respectfully suggest there's something else driving you? Imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough, I'm going to prove I'm good enough, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and that I reckon that I think by the end of it was an imposter syndrome early on because no one knew who I was, and I was just loving the journey. So when I was at Commonwealth Games early and Olympics when nobody knew who I was, that improvement curve I really enjoyed because that was almost proving that I was good enough. So there was a challenge for me to prove that I was good enough. Then when I became one of the best marathon runners in the world, that was expectation because as I got to the end of my career, I was getting some niggles in training and I realised that my performance was about to suffer. But psychologically, I was still getting away with it, but there was expectation from the Australian crowd that I was still the best in the world. And you can't, at 37, having ran marathons for 15 years and ran probably about 200,000 Ks in the last 25 years at that time, your body cannot deliver like it used to. So that was imposter syndrome for me, was expectation of, you're still the best runner in Australia, you're still going to be better than anybody in the world. I turn up at races now and people go, oh, wow, you're going to win today? I go, no, I'm not
Yeah, but you're going to run as fast as you can.
Yeah, we'll run. That's exactly right. So I think that's how you can deal with imposter syndrome, is knowing you've given your best on the day. No one can ask for anything more than that.
Well, you don't solve the problems of the world in your own head. Again, get back to the basic runner in these run clubs, and you've just expressed how important diet and preparation was. What about advice to the average runner? Not the elite runner, just the average runner.
Don't compare yourself to others in the group. It's running improvement and running enjoyment is a very individual thing. So, don't enjoy the group, but don't let the group dictate your thought and your training philosophies. Because if you and I started running, doing exactly the same training, we would progress at different rates. And you might get injured, I might not. For some unknown reason, it's a very independent thing. So I would say enjoy the company, but don't get over-informed by it. So don't get don't be the groupie effect of someone says, oh wow, have you tried this? No, I haven't. Oh, you'll be a much better runner. Why haven't you? So, just block all that out. Enjoy it for the social aspect of it, but it's probably not quite going to be the education experience that you think. I don't want to downplay it, but there's not a lot of science and technology to run clubs. You just turn up and have a good time and everyone's welcome. That's fine. I love that. But don't expect to be probably the best marathon runner in the world because of the training that you do.
But there's a fair bit of science and technology to the sport now, isn't it? These guys running sub 2 hours. How do they do that? And robots.
Yeah.
Robots.
Yeah. Well, robots, I think that'll be, and that I'm not, technology is not my strong point, but I can see a day.
You're an engineer, you can build things.
Yeah, well, I reckon what will happen, and we have paces now, and human beings innately aren't great pacers because it's hard to stay. You've got to block everything out and just run at a pace for a certain period of time. A robot will be able to do that.
So we'll use them as pace setters.
Yeah, so they'll absolutely be pacers, and then when you want them to step off the track, you just push the button and it steps off.
Would that ever be legal in a race?
Well, at the moment they have artificial lights. I know that's different, but that absolutely helps people run faster. So all those intrinsic or extrinsic methods of technology will definitely help. Now, I don't have a problem with technology, but Neil,
Stephen,
when you run a marathon, Neil, that's right, only my mum calls me Stephen, but I'll let you get away with it. Running is a pretty simple thing at the end of the day. Technology, nutrition, diet, all that, you've got to be a person that can put one foot in front of their other as quick as you can. So it's when you think about it, your feet are the only thing that contact the ground. And in a marathon, you can talk about technology all you like, but when you're on the start line of a marathon, you're not thinking about technology. Yeah. You're just thinking about getting your body and those legs to carry you down the road for 42K.
What about, there was a great Australian runner, Derek Clayton, who ran in Dunlop volleys originally. Didn't he get a new pair of shoes the night before he set a world record in Fukuoka?
In Europe.
In Europe, was I thought it was Japan. But he got a brand new pair of shoes and went out and wore them the next day and set a world record.
Not great advice. No. And Derek's an absolute legend and trained incredibly hard. Now you talk about a guy having bad knees. He can't run now because he trains so hard that his heart. They've used his experimented on him because he's a phenomenal human being, and he's really still very competitive even to this day. I think he's in his 80s. Derek, excuse me for mentioning you, and
you'd beat him, mate. You'd beat him. Yeah.
Well, not in the day, I wouldn't. I tell you, I was only 20 seconds quicker than he ran that in 1967. I think 2:8:33. So I was only, what was that? Not even. What's that? 17 seconds quicker than him. What was that? 20 years later.
So how low can it go, the record, when they were under 2 hours?
Well, they have to. What hasn't happened is they haven't really improved the 5 and 10K times, and the half marathon they've brought that down to 50. I always said you double the half marathon time and add 7 minutes, because when I ran 2 hours 8, 2 weeks before I ran 61:30, broke the world record for the half. So you double that and add 7 minutes, sorry, 60:34. When you add 7 minutes, you get exactly my marathon time. So, but because of super shoes, they're not getting tired. So it's probably down to about 5 minutes now. So if they're running 56 and a half for a half marathon, you double that, add 5 minutes.
Are the shoes really that good? Have you tried them?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit of a stickler for, I raced, and Derek's Dunlop volleys are a good example. They basically had not much sole, but you didn't want to carry any extra weight
Yeah.
because you're running over this long distance. You want to be as efficient as you can. So if you had light shoes but you smashed your legs, we didn't care because we could recover for the next 2 months because we weren't running another event for a while. So we were prepared to do that. Anyway, so Nike, I've been with Nike for 40 years almost now, and they sent me these super shoes when they came out. And first thing I do is I weigh my training shoes because I don't like heavy training. I'm happy to train in them, but I like a lighter shoe. So put them on the scales at home and they're about 250 grams. I'm going, no, I said, Tanya, I'm not wearing these. This is ridiculous. Anyhow, so I said to my Nike, no, I'm not wearing them. He said, oh, we've had really good results. You know, other runners have been wearing them. And I said, all right, I'll try them out. I wear them at the Gold Coast 10K. So anyway, I turned up the Gold Coast and I was in 33:30 shape. So I'm running along and I'm not getting tired near the end, and I crossed the finish line. I ran 32:45. Rang the Nike guy and said, send me 5 pairs, I'm sold, I'm done.
They make that much
They
difference.
made that much difference to me, yeah. Just the spring, you know, everyone probably knows about them now, but they've got a carbon plate. So if you land on your heels, which I do, carbon plate, it's like a rocker, puts you onto your toes, so you don't have to use any energy and you're on your toes. And then the foam, it's like springs. So when you're on your toes, you know, they compress and then they spring. So you're getting this sort of it's almost taking your foot into the next stride without you using any energy. So the really important thing, and if you want to see evidence of this, see when Sarway broke the world record, ran under 2 hours, crossed the finish line, he's waving to the crowds, talking, doing interviews. Go back and have a look when I won Berlin. I crossed the finish line and I was knackered. And you could see I was straining like this, crossed the finish line, and I'm absolutely spent because we absolutely used all the energy we had. Whereas these runners now, they do so much of the work for you that you can use your energy for longer, so you can run faster for a longer time, and that's what it's allowing them to do. And the other thing, Neil, is they're recovering really quickly. So they can, not only can they run a marathon in a few weeks' time, but also in training. You compare my training where I'd do a hard session tonight, I'd have to wait 2 days before I could run hard. They can do one quicker, so their capacity to absorb higher level of training also means that when they get to a race, they're in better shape.
So will these type of shoes get down to the running club?
Well, they're there now.
They're there now,
You
and
just
so
have
they're
to pay
running
for
better
them.
as well.
Yeah. I think the pair that Sarway wore, I think they were $700, but they sold out, you know, in a month, in the next month because everyone
Just
wanted
wear them when I'm walking around the place might help. Give me more energy.
Well, they feel good, I can tell
Do
you. I train. I shouldn't, but I train in them sometimes. Just if I'm having a bad day and I don't feel great, I just put them on because there's no doubt when you're running, they put a spring in your step quite literally.
You're having a bad day and you don't feel great. Why do you go out running?
Oh, because I'll feel better when I get back. And because
Yes.
did you say there's a day where I might not go for a run?
I wanted to get to that.
Geez, that happen, does it? Where's that? Who thinks like that?
Let's get this off the chest though.
Yeah.
How many Commonwealth Games have you been to as an athlete and an official? Quite a lot.
Oh, well, all since '86. Everyone.
Everyone.
So I went to the first 4 as an athlete, so 86, 90, 94, 98. Then, fortunately, a guy called Perry Crosswhite, who I love, Perry and Janice. Perry, for some reason, he said, look, you've just retired, can you come and just work with the team as a mentor? So I went to Manchester in 2002 as what we called an ALO, Athlete Liaison Officer. And there were a couple of teams there and a couple of athletes, I won't mention their names, but that were proving challenging. And Perry said, yeah, just go and, just sort that out.
What were they doing, partying or something?
Maybe, they'd finished competition, let's say, and then they were just hanging around and probably were a bit bored, so they were occupying themselves. Anyway, I just had to just work with them a little bit to make sure they were representing the Commonwealth Games Australia appropriately. And he thought I did a pretty good job, and he said, so that was 2002, then 2006 I was the mayor of the village, which was another challenge, looking after the village, not just the Australian team, but everyone that was staying there, which was great. And the highlight of that was commentating and seeing Karen McCann at the MCG, which is a memory I'll never forget. And again, a lot of my experiences, Neil, I've been able to, through sport, be put in a place to experience wonderful things, not not only my own performances but others. And
Well,
then 2010, 2014, 2018, I was chef de mission of the team, so team captain, and since then I've been on the board. So I'm a board member now. Been on there. We went to Birmingham in 2022 as a board member, and we're going to Glasgow shortly as board members. So continuing involvement from 1986 to now, whatever. That's at 40 years.
Did they have official issue condoms with logos when you were an athlete?
Well, I have got a story about that. But I have to. No. Well,
enough.
Well, when I was the mayor here at Melbourne, we had a massive jar of condoms as you went into the sort of reception.
A jar of massive condoms or a massive jar?
Yeah, both. That's right. Yes, it depends on what athletes you talk to. And they were sitting sort of at reception because we wanted to. It was. We wanted to make sure athletes were safe and all that sort of stuff. So we were quite open in that about. Anyway, obviously the Queen's doing the tour, so a couple of minutes before the Queen comes in, the people in charge are all saying and walking through and saying, and what's this? What's this? Oh, they're condoms. Oh, can you please remove those condoms? So I've got a bit of a stash of condoms out the back.
The reason I asked about the Commonwealth Games, and they say, to get it off your chest, what Melbourne did to lose or to forego the Commonwealth Games. What's your view of that?
So what the Victorian government
did,
yes,
sorry, not Melbourne, that's right, it was regional.
I've got to be really clear on this because, and I was kind of a party to, when it was sort of happening, I was, seeing that this was going to come to regional Victoria and Ballarat, and but not only Ballarat, regional Victoria, and having been wedded to the Commonwealth Games and seeing the opportunities it gave me, I'm thinking, how good is this going to be for regional Victoria, not only for the athletes who represent our country, but for people to be able to watch it, young people to see their role models for the generational change that this could do. And regional Victoria is doing it tough, and we were doing it tough then, and so it was just an opportunity for us to get a bit of a kick a goal. And then to see it taken away from us with an absolute pack of lies was just damning. And it destroyed, not Commonwealth Games Australia, it destroyed the Commonwealth Games across the whole Commonwealth, the Commonwealth Games Federation. And to just destroy and I've seen this because when I was a mayor at the Melbourne Commonwealth Games, countries would come to their welcoming ceremony. They didn't care about winning medals. All they wanted was, at the welcome ceremony, it was one of the few times they felt a part of the Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth Games allowed small countries like Niue, like Kiribati, countries that were I'd never even heard of. No one even knew they were in the Commonwealth. This was their opportunity to feel equal and represented within the Commonwealth. Dan Andrews, with one fell swoop, just got rid of that. Just said, just get rid of Commonwealth Games forever. That's what he did to our movement, and I will never forgive him for that. That was disgraceful. They wouldn't listen to us. Craig Phillips, our CEO and presidents, were talking to. If we had had the swimming at MSAC, the cycling where
that's
the
in Melbourne
velodrome
itself,
is now, in Melbourne itself, had events in regional Victoria, the marathon in Ballarat, the badminton in Bennett, or cycling in track cycling, road cycling in other venues around the high country, and events down in Gippsland would have been the perfect model, would have worked very successfully, and it would not have cost the state anything because the return would have equalled the output, the expense.
Never forgive.
Never to forgive that person, and I'm not sure who else was responsible, I'm a pretty forgivable person. I don't normally take things too hard, but Commonwealth Games, and I say this, I'm a board member, and remember when I was come up for the last election, my final line is, I bleed Commonwealth Games. That's how important it is. It gave me my opportunity. We haven't got long enough here to tell the story, but I was the last person picked in that 1986 Commonwealth Games team. I probably may not have deserved to go, but opportunity in history will show from that moment my career exploded. And I owe the Commonwealth Games. I can never do enough to the Commonwealth Games. I know how important it is to my life, but how significant it can be to the Australian sporting landscape. Young children, when you talk about trying to get people in, to be involved in sport because of the lessons of sport. We had one of the biggest events in the world on display to have a direct impact on future of that generation.
So the Commonwealth Games, on Glasgow's pared back. The Commonwealth Games finished as we knew them?
No, and we're already seeing now India's put their hand up for 2030 with an extended program, so that will be, and they're keen on having the Olympics in 2036, so there's sort of method.
So Victoria hasn't killed it, it's damaged it.
It was irreparably damaged until Glasgow put their hand up.
And we paid.
And we contributed to that. Yes. So we contributed to that because we understood that to give these games a future, and the games aren't just 10 days of competition. They are so much throughout that other 4 times 365 days when they're on. So, and we see that from the impact it has on Pacific countries. We see what impact it has on just the younger generation sport. Borrowby, we see some of the programs we do with Indigenous athletes throughout Australia, that the impact of Commonwealth Games is a very positive one on this community. Long may it continue.
It will continue, it'll thrive.
Yeah, and I think, and
so people still say, it's not the Olympics, so it's not the level of competition of the Olympics.
It is not the Olympics. Unfortunately, it's not the Olympics, because in my circumstance, if it was the Olympics, I wouldn't have made the team. So it's a beautiful feeder I went to, Commonwealth Games, then World Championships, then Olympics, and that's a beautiful feeder. But the other thing is, Neil, some people go to Commonwealth Games and get recognised for representing their country at a Commonwealth Games that would never have made the Olympic Games. So it is at a lower level, but being at a lower level is a good thing. I'm not embarrassed about that because it gives opportunity to people who wouldn't otherwise get the chance.
But if you hadn't made the team, you would have been an Australian cricketer, wouldn't you? I believe you opened the bowling and batting.
Yeah,
what was that, the under-10s?
Yeah, I was under 14. I was captain.
Must have been good.
Yeah. Well, we were a cricketing family, so I've got to say I'm the youngest of 4 and 3 brothers, and the other 2, Dennis, the oldest brother, he opened the batting for the Ballarat combined side as a senior. So we came through a cricketing family, and we had the grass pitch. No one will know. We had the grass pitch down the middle of the driveway, front yard. We used it actually over at White's. White's had in Simon Street, White's had a white fence, as it turns out. And I would put my foot on the back of the white fence. We'd check there was no cars coming, and then push off the fence and down and deliver the. And I was a left-hander, so I was at an advantage faster. But I opened the batting and the bowling, and
of course,
like I couldn't wicket keep, but everything else I could do.
So would you rather have been an elite marathoner or captain Australia cricket?
No, well, it kind of came to that. And again, people, it's sliding doors moments, and I can bullshit here because no one's going to deny me. So I had to make the decision, because I sort of feel like my family probably thought I was going to be a pretty good cricketer, and the cricket was the choice I was going to make. But I was never going to. Maybe I might have made a Ballarat combined side, but that would have been as best as I ever could do. And I had to choose between cricket and running. Not everyone says you
went to
between
Little
cricket and footy. Yeah, we won't go to the Little Ass story, but that's
fine. They told you you're no good.
Yeah, so they told me. Well, I wasn't any good. It's actually a fact. So, but there was no running history in my family. So it wasn't like, they said, oh, well, your uncle went to the Olympics, so maybe if you stay at running, you'll be able to go to the Olympics. Whereas cricket was more, my brother was very good. So there was sort of more a direct line for cricket. But interesting for me, and I mentioned, I've chatted to a couple of groups recently, and I said this. The day I went out to my first running race, and I thank Gary Looker, who lived next door to us in Wendouree, for inviting me out. I loved the environment.
Really?
It was a light bulb moment. I remember going back home and Mum and Dad said, oh, how'd you go? And I said, I'm not sure how the run went, but I loved it. And they said, do you want to go back? And I said, I'd really be keen to go back. And I remember Mum saying, good. Well, that's all we need to know.
Kid, that's what we want.
And that's all she wanted, Apparently I was okay because this was for Ballarat Harriers, and being a Catholic, later that week, Ballarat YCW, Young Christian Workers.
Yeah.
A guy from Bob Burns knocked on the door and said to my mum and dad, "Oh, you know, Steve was at a running race." I haven't told this story before, so this is a scoop. And he said, "Oh, it's Catholic, can't run for that Ballarat Harry. He's got to come and run for Ballarat YCW." So I must have ran okay. Otherwise, so I was being headhunted.
And you went.
And in the end, I actually I ran for Harry's still for a couple of years, but eventually I now run for Ballarat YCW. As it turns out, he got his wish in the end. But the best thing I ever did, and I'm not trying to big note myself, but when I won the Commonwealth Games gold medal in 1994, my family was there, sponsor of that. It was in Canada. I came home, and who do you think the first person I went to show my gold medal to? Gary Looker, he owned a hair business, hair fashion business in Ballarat. Went around and said, "Mate, you knocked on my door, started me running, and you know you should feel like you're a part of this."
You get a bit emotional at that.
Well, I did. I don't know if he did. I'm sure he did, and you know I still see Gary occasionally now. But you know, without him, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're the things no one ever knows that. Who's ever heard? No one's ever heard of Gary, and no one.
Yeah.
You know, why would they? But to me, he was a significant person in my life.
Now, this isn't well known. You've had some health issues recently. What have they been? What's happened?
Yeah, so I think there's a bit of a history of it in our family. I think we're all sort of got hearing issues, but through COVID, I kind of blame. I'm gonna blame the government, and I'm going to blame the vaccination. So I had 2 AstraZenecas. Third one was Pfizer injection, and a couple of weeks after that, I had severe hearing loss in this ear. I didn't really know what was happening. Went to the doc, and eventually I got to see a hearing specialist, and they said, "Oh shit, this is pretty serious. You better get onto this." So straight on to steroids, so oral steroids, which obviously I don't like taking, prednisolone, and
That sends you loopy.
no, but it gave me a lot of energy. I was jumping around. I was going crazy, but it didn't really make any difference. So kept going back. I actually I tried something called a hyperbaric chamber. So at the Alfred, and the Alfred, I must say, were fantastic. I was driving down from Ballarat, spent a couple of hours in there, driving back, and I did that I think for 10 days in a row. I got sort of little benefits out of it, but not long term. I was having steroid injections eventually in this year. And
What was the diagnosis? Did they have one?
So as it turns out, I've got something called Meniere's disease, which called hearing loss. I get tinnitus, so I've got hearing aids in now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hear. But most significantly, the thing that was really concerning me, I got really bad vertigo, and I would. As soon as the world was spinning, I'm not sure if people out there will have had it. If you've had vertigo and you know what I'm talking about, it basically removes your quality of life. So I was having to go into the bedroom, or if I was out, I'd just have to sit in the car, and I couldn't concentrate or couldn't live. I was just sitting waiting for this episode to pass, and I'd often just go to sleep and wake up, and I'd be a bit drowsy for the sort of rest of that day, and then eventually I'd get back to normal. But got to the stage where I was paranoid. I'd wake up in the morning and think, well, is today the day that this happens? And I was having episodes, pretty frequently, and I probably thought, well, that's it. I won't, I could still run. So
you were still running with
running, yeah, which is interesting. In
Good
fact,
grief.
I was quite okay when I was running, because you're probably not as sensitive to the hearing stuff. So that was fine. But I was thinking I was going to have to remove myself from public life. So thinking of getting off the boards and speaking and doing all the ambassadorial roles I do. But fortunately, I found a guy in Sydney who has been through the experience himself, and whilst he had lots of things he wanted me to do, the main one was to go on a low sodium diet. So I've cut out a lot of salt out of my diet, and my vertigo has settled.
Still have it occasionally, though?
Have it occasionally, but I've got to say it's been, touch wood and touching lots of pieces of wood, it's been remarkable, the change. I still have the hearing loss, so I wear hearing aids full time now, and tinnitus if I don't. So when I go to bed at night or I'm in a quiet space, I have tinnitus, more a roaring than a ringing. So that can be pretty
Very
annoying.
frustrating.
And you know, I thought I'd be embarrassed wearing hearing aids, but you know what? They allow me to function. Without hearing aids, I wouldn't be able to get out in the public. Tanya she'd be sick of me by now, and you know, I'd be out the door. So, you know, it's given me at least an ability to probably live a pretty normal life. I think I'm a pretty hospitable and friendly character. I genuinely do the best I can. I've never tried to hurt or harm anyone in my life, and yet I think I'm offending people because often, you know, I'm not hearing them. So a person will walk past me and say, "Oh, good to see you out running, Mona," or "Good to see you," and I'll just won't hear them, and they probably think I'm rude. So I'm apologise. This is a public chance to apologise to anyone I've offended. But generally, it's that, you know, I feel like and even the speaking gigs I'm doing, questions, I'm struggling to hear the questions. So I do feel like I used to think I was superhuman runner, invincible, bulletproof. I now realise that, you know, life takes turns and you manage it and deal with it as best as you can. And I must say, once they know and understand, they're very accommodating.
And I think it's important to get it out there because a lot of people suffer from these sort of issues.
Yep.
But was there any time when you couldn't run because you stopped running for any time? Been a few days here and there.
I broke my neck but I was kind of not. I was 20. I can tell you, it was Wednesday, the 13th of June, 1984. Not that I remember it, but you remember when you break your neck on a trampoline, so not running, and quite similar to Brody Myercheck's situation, where I sort of pile drove into the trampoline and sort of kinked my neck when I landed, and I was about to jump off. Luckily, the person who was instructing came in and said, "Oh, gee, I think we just better do this conservative." And sure enough, I got an ambulance, went to hospital, and found I'd fractured the C6 vertebra in my neck, which meant I was in hospital for a couple of weeks. Then I was in a brace, so a really severe brace, not the halo, the brace, and I couldn't shower or couldn't run. So I had a couple of months there where I couldn't run, and you can probably see, I mean, they're both shaking today, but I have a little bit of paralysis just down that side that
and how old were you?
doesn't affect me. So I was 20, about to turn 22.
So it didn't hold your career back?
No, fortunately, but it could have.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, it was sort of, and again, you know, you asked me, that was the time I've spent, that would have been the longest period of time in my life that I didn't run. It's probably a couple of months, but it was a significant moment because up until then I was a carefree kid at uni, having a good time, pretty social, doing a bit of running, and everyone's going, you know, "Hey, gee, you're a pretty good runner." I'm going, yeah, I know I am. I am really good, that's fine. When that happened, sitting in the hospital bed thinking, geez, I was that far away from never running again. I tell you, when I get back running, I am not going to waste this talent and this ability that I've got. I am really going to be incredibly focused and committed to being the best athlete I can be. And it's no accident, you know, 85 I went to World Cross Country, 86 Commonwealth Games, and my career just absolutely exploded so I look back, it was a dark time in my life, but it was a significant turning point in making me the person and the runner I am.
Well, with the Meniere's disease, did you stop running it even for a few days here and there? Because you must get very grumpy when you don't run.
Well, yeah, people around me, you get depressed really, to be honest.
Really?
You know, yeah, I was just down because I just, you know, I felt like, and you know, we've got some mental health issues. Tanya's family and Tanya's unbelievably sensitive and very, very good at
She's got
dealing
counselling,
with it.
isn't she?
Pardon?
Doing some counselling.
Yeah, well, she does. Yeah, she works at Lifeline and does works as in that sort of field. And she should have been. Had she not had to put her life on, I feel guilty because I didn't really give Tanya the opportunities to have her own life and career, and she would have been an unbelievable counsellor. And so, having sort of seen how mental health can play out, I had moments where I'm thinking, well, you know, this is affecting me so much, I'm going to withdraw from society. And if you withdraw from society, what's your purpose in life? So it was really, what am I going to do here?
So you're really thinking of sort of just becoming a hermit?
Yeah, I couldn't, because every time I came out, there was, in the back of my mind, there was this, at any point I'm just going to be a bluthering mess on the ground. And I wasn't prepared, you know, I'm too proud to be in that situation. So showing weakness in public was going to be something that really affected my mindset. So the only way to stop that was to not put yourself in that position, to withdraw yourself from
Did you ever actually fall over on the ground with it?
No, but
Close.
But you couldn't exist, yeah. So I had to, you know, I'd look at Tanya would, obviously Tanya would know, and I couldn't, I had to be led to a place where I could lay down, even laying down wasn't great when I was horizontal, so I was better actually when I was in a sitting position with a pillow just removed from any public space.
Did you think you were really going through a form of depression with it?
Yeah, well I didn't know the future, and you know, I think I'm a very, you know, you know me well enough that I'm a very structured person, so I like to plan out, you know, this is how life's going to unfold, this is how things are going to play out, and suddenly I'm thrown this curveball where I can plan all I like, but that's not going to happen because of this thing that's now inflicted itself upon me. There is no cure, it's never going to get any better, and if this actually gets worse, I have no reason to exist. And then when you're going through those thoughts, that's a very difficult situation.
Thinking suicide?
No, I was never thinking, no. but my value to society was public society was removed. So my family were always going to understand. So I probably would be, you know, still be in that environment. And then they'd know, oh, Steve's just having an episode, disappear for an hour or a couple of hours and come back, and hopefully he'll be okay.
Now, how's your ticker?
Good. Yeah,
I was reading how a common problem with distance runners is atrial fibrillation.
Yes.
You've avoided that?
Yeah, and I've been through, you know, I've done some tests and very conscious of that, and you know, I'm fortunate, I think, for me, my legs have always been my weakness. So aerobically, I've always been very strong. Talk about a low heart rate. I've had tests and a low calcium score, you know, all these sorts of things. So I think because my heart's always been very efficient, my legs less so, my training, I never really overindulged my heart because my legs are always trying to catch up. So, and I don't want to
You didn't overindulge your heart running 2:08.
No, not really. It was harder running, you know, a fast 5K because you're actually breathing really heavily to run a 5K because you're running flat out. Whereas a marathon, you're measuring your run a lot more. I think the difficult thing with hearts for us is the consistent training. Like I ran, you know, 180 to 200 Ks every week for 15 years in a row. So I reckon it's the little impacts on our heart that eventually your heart, you know, sorry, I'm not great for sound, but eventually if you're doing this to your heart, which I was probably doing, if you're doing that for 20 years, your heart probably goes, well, we've had enough of this. So at some time we're probably wearing it out. I'm just wearing it out slowly.
You mentioned a couple of times, have you ever worked out how far you have run?
Oh, people ask me, people will often ask me how many laps around Lake Wendouree I do. And I said, well, I don't run around Lake Wendouree all the time, I run around the forest and lots of other tracks. So that then gets me thinking, you know, I had a diary for sort of 20 years of it, and I can add all of that up. So I probably averaged, you know, about 7,000 Ks a year, and I was running, you know, that was about 30 years of that, and then probably the other 20 years I was probably doing 3,000 or 4,000, so I don't know how many. It's
400,000 Ks to the moon.
Yeah, well, I'd probably
run to the moon.
Be a long way there. I wouldn't quite get there, but
might have some breathing troubles.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't need the oxygen once I got there, would I?
Selfish life being an elite athlete.
Yeah, very.
And you've sort of referred to that a little. You're trying to catch up now.
Yeah, and I never, to my naivety, I never thought about that at the time. So I was selfish, but or self-indulgent. I probably don't say selfish, or self-focused, self-indulgent. But you have to be. You have to be single-minded. You don't get to be one of the best marathon runners in the world unless you are single-minded. I know that's a brutal answer, and the people around you have to understand that. In fact, sometimes they encourage that because they realise that's what it needs to take, or it takes to get to the level that I got to. And to be the best that you want to be, doesn't mean you have to be self-indulgent, but to be the best in the world does, because you're influenced by external factors.
Yeah.
And that changes the dynamic. So I'd like to think, I can be the best I can be. I can still go out and have fun and have a few beers and, be a social animal as well. Not that I ever was anyway. So, I didn't really force. I was just getting to be a really good athlete, and as a process of that, it meant that I became very self-indulgent. And I remember we were going to, this is a true story, so Emma, our oldest child, who's now 32, I think, born in 94, 32, she was 3 or 4, and we were going to the London Marathon, and we're about to get organised, packing all the cases, we're leaving tomorrow, and I'm going, wow, Emma, how exciting is it, wow, we're going on the big plane, we're going to fly overseas, we're going to London. And she said to me, oh, Dad, I'm going to miss my kinder friends.
Oh, lovely.
And I thought, wow, what a dickhead I am. I'm thinking she's going to be enjoying going to London. She doesn't even, her world was her kinder friends and that environment and us and at home. And it made me realise, I think it's important going to the London Marathon, but it absolutely meant nothing to her. And,
Do you feel guilt about all those? I mean, Tanya, the kids, most dads, when they get to your age and my age, feel a bit of guilt.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Well, I tell you, how about this?
We've got another story.
I've got a story for everything, but this is another story. So I was overseas. I'm not sure whether it was some conference or some run, but I flew home and crossed the date line, missed a day, my first Father's Day. So my first Father's Day doesn't exist because once I crossed the date line, I skipped the day, and that was the day. So there you go. That's sometimes the situations that happen.
So how do you try to make up for it now?
Yeah. So
what do you do?
Well, I don't know. I've got a great relationship with Emma and and Laura and Matthew and Olivia. So, what am I? I'm not sure. They've got a great mum, and I will never be as good a parent as their mum is. But I reckon I'm a pretty good dad. And you know what I reckon? I'm not sure if I'm a great dad, but I am a really good friend to our kids, confidant, mentor, role model, and I reckon they're 3 pretty important things. So
you get fragile about your kids, though. We all do.
Yeah, well, I'm fragile. We've got a grandson now, and I get, and he was doing it. He had a sleepover last night, and he was doing some things that I wasn't comfortable with, Neil. But I let him do it. I'm proud of myself because I'm letting him take some risks that I normally wouldn't be comfortable with and probably didn't let our kids do.
How do you make it up to Tanya?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
You trying?
I try, it's not, I'm still, unfortunately I'm still busy with lots of stuff. So it's, I try to distinguish. Tanya might see this differently to me. I do a lot of things as a public person. So Steve Moneghetti, public face, great, does everything, ambassador for everything. And then I try to be a different person when I'm at home, do a bit more cooking now because obviously I need the low sodium diet, so I'm doing a bit more cooking, cleaning. So probably just value add a bit more in that private space that we exist, hopefully. I don't know.
Sure she wants you around? Sure she wants you around?
I hope so, yeah, I think so. I think she's appreciating my cooking. My gnocchis, my fried gnocchis, local house specialty.
I wanted to ask a couple of random things. You've been to 4 Olympics, 3 top 10 finishes. We've talked about the one that wasn't Barcelona.
Yeah.
Not about yourself necessarily, but the most magical thing you've seen in the Olympic Games.
Oh, Kieran Perkins' swimming result was pretty good. Yeah, I think some of the most magical moments I've actually seen. Neil, I know this is quite unique to me. When I was a chef de mission of the Commonwealth Games, whilst that's a token role, I tried to get out to watch a lot of the athletes train, and female boxers training. That was a highlight for me because of their ability to, and I probably initially wouldn't have liked my daughters to be boxers, But when I saw the commitment and the passion and the enjoyment on their faces, I thought, wow, I see this in a completely different light. So seeing athletes behind the scenes, behind the arena, you learn a lot about life. And when you see them performing, you think you learn a lot about life, but you learn so much more in the training space, because that's when you're questioning, that's when you're practicing, that's when you're trying things. Normally, when you're in the arena, you're executing what you've already practiced. I love seeing the practice and the training and the way a team, I'm in an individual sport, but the way teams, the Australian women's netball team, or Australian netball team, when they come together as a unit and play, and you watch them, somebody says, oh, wasn't that a boring game, you know, the girls won by 10 goals. Are you kidding me? They perfectly executed what I saw at training 2 days ago. How good's that?
Something, I'll raise this, it's grim, but it's important. We're just talking about mental health things. And it was an important time in your life when you're in London for a marathon, which really turned your career. And Tanya, you're about to get married. Tanya's father committed suicide.
Yeah.
And this has been publicly discussed, so I'm not giving any secrets. You decided to stay in London and run rather than come back, and it really did take off from there.
Yeah.
You regret that a bit now?
Yeah, and obviously I do. Yeah, and again, that's that self-indulgence. And interestingly, I've carried that guilt. I haven't told too many people, but you know, that's something you can't, and I can't change it, so I've got to accept it. It's either live with it or accept it and move on. And you know, I tried to, and interestingly, I've spoken to Tanya subsequently about it, and she said, no, we spoke about it, and you know, we agreed that you would stay. And so I probably, I don't remember that conversation, so maybe I was thinking it was my decision to stay. Obviously I ran second, you know, we won a lot of money, we bought our first house, you know, blah, blah, blah. So there were good reasons for staying, but you can never justify a decision that has an emotional consequence that you regret. And, you know, obviously, you know what, and Tanya will say, I wasn't very close to Tanya's mum. I was really close to her dad. Now, I miss him every day, and
Still.
I feel guilty that I wasn't there in that circumstance, and to say goodbye, and that's a selfish thing from me. But, you know, I think in the end, I've done the right thing by his daughter, and we've got a fantastic relationship and a fantastic family. And I'm not going to cry, Neil, but I think he'd be proud of me. And for that, I can't do any more than that. And you know, if we do go through, I can tell you that we are a closer family because of the mental health issues that Tanya's experienced, and that's made my life a lot more satisfying and fulfilling, having been through that experience.
Why did you have that?
Her.
Why do you have that impact on your life? Why you say you still think of him every day?
Oh, because I wasn't here, and I think, and
No, but the man himself obviously had it.
Yeah, and he was a humble, genuine, and you know, I see a lot of his traits in Tanya, and he was a hard-working. He was everything I was publicly. He was privately. You know, had a good close network of friends who relied on him. He was a hard worker. He put in a good day's work. He worked for his family. That was all. He played table tennis. You know, I love my table tennis, and we had some great battles. But I just sensed he had a good soul, and I hope to think that I've got a good soul too, and that I can, you know, bring up our kids, and he'd be proud of his daughter and his grandkids in the way that we've brought them up, in reflection of what he left us in his behaviour and his morals.
And you have discussed it now with Tanya. That's good.
Yeah,
That needed to be done.
yeah, it did. And
Took a while.
And it's a hard conversation.
Oh, of course it is.
You know, and to some degree, you know, I'm embarrassed about it as well, because you know I made a selfish decision. It probably turned out okay, and my career, you know, took off because of it. Who knows what might have happened had I come home? But in the end, the decision, I've still got to own it.
Must have been difficult to run in those circumstances too. Or do you
Well,
manage
Tanya's
to turn it off?
mum came over then, so they were there, and they came to London then, so we spent time with them. So having them there was actually better, so I was okay. And you know what? In a race, I know it sounds hard, but once the gun goes, you need to be 100% focused on the task. So you can't be distracted by things like that. Whilst they're in the back of your mind, you block them out and you just get done what you have to do to get a result.
I really appreciate your time. Just a couple of quick things to wrap up. How many world records you got now? You got old blokes ones,
I
haven't you?
seriously don't. I think I've still got the 5K there. I had some, but I'm not sure if they've been broken or not. So age group records on the way through. But you know, the three I'm really, I tell people I broke the world record for the half marathon, which I technically did do, but they're all downhill, so they've got an asterisk beside them. So I'm really angry about that because I would have broken the world record 3 times. Yeah. If we had a little ramp at the end to run up, I still was under the world record. So I hate having the asterisks there because, you know, I feel bad when I talk about it. But so I ran those, and they were open records. So, you know, you look now, they run under 2 hours for the marathon. Well, I ran, you know, 60:06 for a half, so I ran that pace for a half marathon. So that was probably and whilst I, you know, won marathons, the half marathon was my best. If there was a half marathon cross country race, I'd be pretty good. There'd be some Kenyans that'd be pretty good too, but that'd be my best race. I love my cross country and that's where I started, and I will always have as my first love cross country.
Are you going to keep running the senior stuff?
I don't go to masters events. I run in open competition and then get down to the subset of the age group. So if I win the age group or place in the age group, I'm happy to accept that. But I don't go to a specific masters race and run in what am I, 63, in the 60 plus age group at the moment.
You're a teacher, you're a father, you're an elite athlete. You've talked about the psychology and the philosophy on life. We've got a big problem with kids at the moment and youth crime and those sort of issues. You're running the country, what would you do?
Well, we've got to empower them, and I think, interestingly, they've got to be made to understand the consequences of their actions. So, what I've been fortunate, and you've done it better than anybody, is be a constructive member of your community. Now, that community, in some circumstances, is a world community, but mainly it's your local community. So if you are constructive in your local community, then you have a bit of value for it. I think what's happened is now kids don't get embraced in the local community. They don't have a sports club. They don't go down to see their mates at the playground. Go down to the skate park. I don't care if I'm encouraging them to go down to the skate park because at least they're hanging out together, they're talking, they're related. So I reckon they're sort of a little bit removed from being an active member of their community. And if you're not an active member of your local community, then you're not going to have an appreciation for it. So I never worry about world problems. I don't often worry about national problems, to be perfectly honest, because I can't affect world problems. I'm not going to stop the world.
So what do you worry about?
The war in Iran. I worry about my community because that is actually something I can affect. Go down and see your councillor. You know, talk to them. When's the last time you had a conversation with your mayor or your local councillor?
Oh, I think we should get rid of them.
Yeah. See, well, I reckon they play a very important role. Engage with them. Don't expect. Why is it me all the time? Come and see me. I've got a problem. Blah. I'm whinging. I don't like you. You've done this. Stop whinging. Actually show by your actions. Go down and get engaged with the people. Have a conversation. Do something about it. Don't just whinge. If you engage like that, you'll get, I tell you, you might not solve youth crime, but you'll go a hell of a lot way to engaging and having a better community from cradle to grave.
You ever thought of going into politics?
Well, I have at times.
Been offered?
I don't want to be disliked by half the population, which even if you get elected, you probably are. Is that right?
Probably. You've been offered though, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Which side?
Not recently. So, well, Labor and Democrats at the time, but not in recent
You still wouldn't
times.
be tempted? You're young enough?
Well, local government, I'd like.
What, a councillor?
Yeah, so councillor, yeah. So that would be the only job, because then I feel like I can have a conversation with the people I'm representing. I mean, if you're the national, and Catherine King actually is the National Infrastructure Minister, I think, how can she talk to the person that's got a pothole in their road, just down the street? Because if she talks to every one of them, that's her day. There's not enough time in the day. So she's so much more high level. Whereas as a councillor, I feel like I can actually talk to the people that I live with And hopefully, if you've got a problem, I can fix it directly. So I feel like at least when I see you next, you told me to fix a problem. Actually, Neil, I fixed it for you and you say thanks.
But why
I don't think Catherine King's ever getting that
Why
conversation.
couldn't that work at a federal level? Unemployment's a problem, cost of living's a problem. Yeah, I'll fix it for you.
Very hard.
Well,
Very
of course
hard
it's
to
hard.
do.
So are potholes.
Yeah. So, and I'm on a couple of national boards, athletics and Commonwealth Games, and those member associations and clubs are so important because you know what? Commonwealth Games doesn't exist, and athletics, Australian athletics as we are now, doesn't exist if we don't have athletes, people. And an athlete starts at the club. The person living next to you could be our next Olympic gold medalist. They just don't know it yet. So if you have an influence on them, you've started them on the journey.
Would you ever leave Ballarat?
No, we love it there. Yeah,
Have you ever attempted to live overseas?
Yeah, you spend a few winters in Ballarat, you're tempted to leave. It's the length of the winters. We used to travel. I never had a Ballarat winter because we would I'd either go to hot weather training or I'd go overseas to some place to do some warmer weather training. So, but I remember coming back when I retired and having a whole Ballarat winter, and that's tough. So we might exit for a few months when it gets a bit chilly. But we love the community there. It's booming, it's growing. It gives us nice space and distance. From Melbourne, as you know, when you're a public figure, you need your own space, and that I think sometimes Ballarat people are very protective of me, and I appreciate
That's good.
that.
That is good. So great to see you. Thank you so
Always
much for
great
coming
to
in.
see. Sorry to ramble and chat. I hope,
That's
hope there's been
it.
some wisdom in there, in amongst all the rambling.
Welcome to Father and Son, where my boomer logic is challenged by my son Cameron with his millennial passion. Cameron?
Working from home, you've got a problem with it?
Yeah.
Why?
Institutionalised laziness.
Really?
No, not entirely. I think it's negative for productivity. I think it's negative for personal development, and it's negative for learning the ropes. And look, fine, a couple of days a week or negotiate it with the boss, but don't make it compulsory.
But, so you agree that it's not absolute. So sometimes you work from home, sometimes you work from the office. You're okay with that?
Well, I'd rather it didn't happen.
At all?
Yeah.
But you did it during COVID, as did a lot of people.
Well, I didn't want to get sick.
Yeah.
But it didn't work well. In my view, it didn't work well. It was frustrating. Maybe it's my business, but my industry I've worked in my whole life. But so much that's constructive happens when you're moving around an office. You go off to get a cup of coffee, bump into somebody in the corridor, have a chat. There's an idea, let's do this. A positive exchange.
I think it probably depends on your workplace whether or not that happens, though.
62% of public servants federally work from home at least a couple of days a week. Before COVID, it was 22%.
But how much of that's technology improving?
How much of it's laziness? Public servants don't work.
Well, that's another argument.
Well, it is.
But not every industry can work from home, clearly, and I don't know how laws are going to affect things. But the price and the time is a factor as well. The average commute costs people $19 a day.
Well, suck it up. You're going to work, you've got to commute.
You think, but they can save $19, $20 a day. You don't think that's a good thing?
Yeah, and then you charge the boss for your printer or something. Look, I just think the balance is out of whack. It's fine if the employer and the employee do a deal, negotiate. Okay, that's fine. You can do a couple of days a week. But at the moment, the argument is, I spend less time commuting, or I can take the kids to daycare. Well, hang on, you've got a job. You've also got to do the job for the boss, and he's got a right to say, I want you there at these times. I think. Now, in Victoria, you won't have because they're changing the law.
But you talk about commute times. The average commute time per day is about 64 minutes on average across the country. It's higher in Melbourne and Sydney. But I don't see a problem with giving people, if it's 2 days a week, that's an extra 2 hours out of their life that they get back.
Oh, great. What does the boss get out of it? He's paying the salary.
But you really think that productivity is down that much by people working from home a few days a week?
Well,
not full time.
The Productivity Commission says it is. It says it's down. And people working from home full time, it's down. People working a couple of days from week, it's not as bad. That's what the Productivity Commission says.
So then where's the problem? If a few days a week doesn't impact anything, but it probably makes people a bit happier, it saves them a bit of money and it saves them time. So that's what, $40 a week and 2 hours by working 2 days home.
And the guy who's paying your salary, what's in it for him?
You're happier and therefore a better worker.
But is it unreasonable? So, okay, if you're going to sit at home for a week, allegedly working, I'm going to check what you're doing. Is that, put a little camera up in the corner and keep...
But some industries do that even when you're working in the office.
They do. I don't like it. I've always liked to work, and I became a boss at about 26 at the age, chief of staff. I think you need trust with your staff.
But you don't trust them to work from home?
No, it's not that. I'm sure most people are fairly diligent. What I'm saying is you're losing so much in other ways.
Only if it's full-time working from home. I think part-time working from home has more advantages than disadvantages.
So what if the boss says, no, I don't want you working from home at all? Is he entitled to say that?
Not in Victoria soon.
No, I know, but that's silly, isn't it?
No, I think it's great.
Look, it still comes back to this key point. The boss is paying the salary, right? You've got a job, and these days you're fortunate to have a job and a good job that pays well. You owe the boss something. He's got some rights as you have got rights. At the moment, the pendulum is all to, I'm going to work from home, I'm going to knock off at 5 and you're not allowed to contact me outside hours. This is all nonsense. In any decent job, you have to be available 24 hours a day and you have to be working hard.
That's nonsense.
Why is it?
No way. 24 hours a day to the boss.
Yeah. In
journalism,
jobs,
maybe.
yeah.
In medicine, sure. You could debate law, and I can't imagine.
Oh, that's fair.
Too
Yeah,
much
that's
else.
fair comment. In those sort of jobs, yeah. I guess if you're a public servant, well, you knock off at 3:32, and that's fine. But you get my point. The boss is the one who's paying the money. He's running a business. He's putting his house on the line to try and build the business up. He's giving you a job in the meantime, and you're saying, "Oh, I'll decide what hours I work and where."
Well, no, because that's in the
right.
contract, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, what if the boss says no? No, off you go.
Well, then
in
they'll
fact,
find someone else, won't they?
I know one who said, look, if he said to his staff, about 100 staff, if you want to work from home, that's fine, but you're not working here.
How many staff did you lose?
Very few. They were pulling all sorts of tricks to pretend they were working. So,
Look, there will be a small amount of people that will exploit it inevitably, but they're probably the same ones that do nothing in the workplace, that just sit there looking at bloody cat videos on their phone. I mean, I've seen enough of that in workplaces, or play table tennis when they go, oh, let's create these things like pool tables or things like that in the workplace to make people seem more relaxed. And then you see that one person who's there all day.
that's to keep the staff happy. You're the one who wants to keep the staff happy. Give them a pool table.
Let them work from home instead, save everyone the trouble.
No, it undermines... What about learning? What about the kid coming up and learning how an office works, having a mentor, getting to understand face-to-face meetings and all those sort of
But
things?
you're dealing in absolutes. We're not saying that they're never going to be there. They're going to be there some days a week, and so that person learning is only there when staff are there.
But you're taking the immediacy out of it.
Not for 2 days, only for 3 days. Well, 3 days a week, you're not. 2 days a week, you could be.
Yeah, well, that's not good. You know, I'm the boss. I walk out of my, I've got to, hey, fellas, we've got to sort this out now. Joe blogs the suppliers, cancelled sales or something. We've got to sort it out now. What are we going to do? Sit round?
There's not too many bosses that are that collaborative, I would think.
Oh, I don't know, really. What is it anyway? What is this millennial attitude? Don't trust the boss.
Because you have grown up in an era where the boss is loyal to the worker.
Oh, well, in media.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll cop that. But outside of media, there are people that one job for 40 years, they get the watch and off they go.
Oh, no, that hasn't happened for a long, long time.
Exactly. So the bosses do not show loyalty to their staff, even if they're good and hardworking. So why should we show loyalty to them?
If you've got a good person who's hardworking and comes into the office occasionally, you want to keep them. You don't want to lose them. Good staff are hard to find.
I've seen plenty of good people get sacked.
Right, for financial reasons, redundancy. Well,
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But once again, the boss is the one putting his house on the line, not you. He has to run his business to make a profit, not an obscene profit, but a profit and keep people in work.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. I understand that that's the side of business, but the idea that as soon as you get a job, you've got to be so grateful to your boss and sacrifice extra hours, work extra hours, be available 24/7, I just think it's wrong.
No, you don't have to be grateful, you don't have to be obsequious, but you do have to do a good job and be proud of your work and do it in a way that satisfies everybody. And if that means staying on half an hour after knock-off time, tough. Suck it up.
Disagree. You're not being paid for it.
Oh, it's time to go now.
There's always tomorrow.
If you're employing a person, you expect something in return other than, no, I'm off the clock. Now, sure, fair enough. You only do it when it's really necessary. And if you're sending them a text message, and I've done that a fair bit too, and I've done it when it was necessary in journalism. Oh, we need to chase this up. This has just happened. Get on to him. Do that. Don't leave it till morning or we'll get beaten.
But you're trusting bosses to respect boundaries, and there's not every boss will. And so that's why they create these sorts of laws, so they go, right, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, but the laws are screwing the bosses. Any ideal workplace, there is a positive relationship between the boss and the worker to the benefit of both. Neither screws the other.
How many workplaces have you been in where you've had a good relationship with the boss?
Well,
really?
That's not my way. But I would think in most cases my staff had a good relationship with me. In any good job, you need passion for it. Even if it's selling widgets to France. If I convince you.
No, I do not see, like, people are saving money and they're saving time, and if they're happier and there's no reduction in productivity, then 2 days a week from home, I don't see a problem with it.
And where do they learn?
The other 3 days a week, but you're only, see, this is the thing, you're using good bosses as the only example, and then novice workers. Okay, let's take your fantasy world and assume that every boss is great. Then we've still got people that once they learn the job, they don't need to be there 5 days a week in a lot of industries, not every industry.
All right, are we there yet?
Yeah, question without notice for you.
Yes.
When was the last time you ironed a shirt?
Ooh. Oh, a couple of years.
How many's a couple?
Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it was probably pre-COVID, so yeah. I don't iron shirts. I take them to the dry cleaners.
Yeah.
They've do it for me. Look, you talk about working from home, there are certain jobs that you just don't do because you can be more constructive.
Because your wife will do it for
That's
you.
your wife.
Yeah. There's a real boomer thing, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to iron shirts anymore. Look.
I haven't ironed this. None of my friends would ever iron their partner's shirt.
Do they iron their own?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't they?
Because it's the job of the partner to do it, look after his own clothes.
Yeah, but they're both working from home. They don't need shirts. Question without notice. Why do so many millennials wear their pants around low in their back so you can see their undies?
Ooh.
Cosy Pickett, Keziah Pickett, Melbourne player,
He's
great
not a millennial.
player. He wears his footy shorts halfway down his bum.
Not a millennial.
No, he's not, that's true. But a lot of millennials do. You do, you get along, you got your jeans halfway down your bum. And you see your undie. What are you showing off, Calvin Klein?
I don't think I do it that much, but I suppose it's fashion. Like it was what you grow up with in the 90s and 2000s, and you get things ingrained because the generation below me are absolutely disgusted by skinny jeans. And
or skinny jeans. Oh,
like
tight legs.
Yeah. And so people in their teens and 20s find them revolting for multiple reasons. The main one being that millennials are still wearing them. Now, millennials, when they're in their teenagers and early 20s, might have been a bit skinnier and skinny jeans might have looked okay. Now, most millennials would be not as in shape as they once were, but they still have the same size jeans and everything looks a bit confronting.
So it's not just boomers versus millennials, it's millennials and Gen Z are at war.
Well, there's always,
But you haven't answered the question. Why have you got your pants halfway down your back? Your legs? Like
why did it
Cosy
exist?
Pickett.
It probably became cool from rap culture, I would suggest, which was...
Rap culture.
Yeah. I think the original theory was that people that came out as rappers in the 90s...
Came out?
Yeah, okay. People that were rappers in the 90s, a lot of them came from prison, and they weren't allowed belts because it was a risk, a health risk, and as a result, their pants fell down.
So you're emulating convicts?
Pretty much. That was the theory. I don't know if that's true, but that was always the theory.
It's bizarre.
It's just fashion.
It's not, it's ugly.
But it's like, why do all boomer men seem to wear their pants up to their nipples?
Well, they do.
Yeah.
It's awful. And boomer boots.
There you go.
No, okay. No, I will never. And why we see a footballer running around like it? Nobody can. Pull your shorts up. Not up to his nipples.